Hey guys, welcome back. I'm glad to be back on the scene here in Hospitality Hall. Thank you, Dean, for the introduction. Great. I do want to just real quick go over some of the ingredients. We're going to be looking at the warm pistachio-crusted Chevre with Bartlett pear, California mixed greens, and champagne vinaigrette. So I want to identify a couple of things first on the recipe side of things. And then I also wanted to, just real quick, as a reminder for those of you that are cooking at home, go ahead and just put your oil on low heat so we can get that nice and warmed up and ready to go. Before I get into anything, I want to just give a shout out to my family, Mindy, McKenna, how you guys doing? And then George and Pat and Dan and Carol also as well. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and the Rebels as well. So, let's look at some of the ingredients for those of you that are cooking along. So on the recipe side of things, we're going to be doing two different cooking techniques today. We're going to be looking at doing some little bit of pan frying and then also an emulsification, making a vinaigrette. So with the ingredients for the vinaigrette itself, we have the shallots, which I'm going to show you just a second how to do that. Dijon, mustard, champagne, lemon juice, honey. We're going to put a little bit of Tabasco in there, so the capsaicin will help bring some of the sweetness out of the honey. So there'll be a good contrast there. Don't forget the salt and pepper, and then we're using California mixed greens, and then we'll garnish with a little fresh pear on the side. The goat cheese itself, we take the goat cheese log, and I just wanted to show you real quick. I went ahead and cut ahead of time just some discs, and then I set up my dredging station. We'll get into that process in just a minute. So if you've gone ahead and followed the prep list, the suggestion was to go ahead and have your medallions already cut and have your station set up so we can work along with that. Before I get started, I want to tell you that I washed my hands and I want to make sure that I'm wearing gloves because this is going to be kind of like on the salad side of things, an RTE style food. So, and then I washed my vegetables as well. I mean, my lemon and my pear. So from that perspective, I have my ingredients measured out here, pre-measured as we discussed. I do want to go ahead and show you that on the pear side of things and the shallot side of things, when we're working with the cutting board, I want to go ahead and do the pear, slice the pear, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just take off. And the pear itself can be any type of pear. I prefer more of the sweet pear for this particular dish from that perspective, but I want to go ahead and just kind of get those ready to go on the side just to plate. I'm only going to do, well, I might do 2 plates, but looking from that perspective. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then, so we'll go ahead and this is going to be the garnish. So I want to do that on the side, okay, from right here. And then we'll go ahead and set that right there from that perspective. So we've got our pears taken care of. I did want to just real quick talk to you about the goat cheese. So if you like to do kind of DIY stuff at home, it's really nice to try to make your own cheese every once in a while. So, but this particular cheese itself, you have the goat cheese. You can easily buy goat's milk and add a little bit of citric acid, or if you don't have that, you could do a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of salt. Once it breaks apart and from that perspective and coagulates, then you can go ahead and put that through some cheesecloth, and then from that process, you have your cheese made. And then, of course, if you want to make feta, just switch the types of milk. So right now I want to look at the dressing. So I want to do all of the ingredients in, so with the exception of the shallot. So I'm going to put in my Dijon, my champagne, my honey, a little salt and pepper. From that perspective, a little lemon juice. Again, I pre-measured all my ingredients before we started, the champagne vinegar. And then like I said, the Dijon here. That's going to give it a nice little tang. It also helps give it a little bit of the emulsification. So in the dressing making process, we're trying to establish the connection between fats, acids, and of course oxygen from the whisking and the agitation. So a little lemon juice, and then so just to help you out with this, the easiest way to remember how to do this is just put everything in the bowl except for the oil. Okay, so I got my dashes of Tabasco here. Just a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and then I'm going to sit back on this just for a second, and then I'm going to show you my shallot. So obviously I cut my pear first, just because I have two, I have a fruit and a vegetable, and I don't want to have, in the pear side of things, I don't want this to pick up the flavor, all right? So on this, you can use two different types of knives, okay? If you want to use the paring knife because you feel a little bit more comfortable with that, it's real easy. Bring it to the edge of the board here. And then I'm just going to take and make these little right across 1/4 inch. And what we're looking at is the mincing of this onion. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping my fingers tight up on top so I don't have any loose hands, so I don't run myself through. And the action is kind of like this with the wrist. If you're using a knife, like a chef's knife, you would actually be putting it in and kind of sliding it forward and then coming back, okay? So, and then I need to make those same downward motions with the paring knife. I'm going through, and then that process here, okay? And then I'm actually gonna switch to my chef's knife. I feel more comfortable with that. So from this process, okay, and then from there, I think my glove broke. So let me just go ahead and change that out. Okay. So I want to make sure that we're wearing good gloves for everything, for protection, as well as for the people that are consuming. So on this particular aspect of things, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little mince. And the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons. Now, if you want to not use shallots, you want to use red onions, or you want to use garlic, you're more than welcome to do so. So from that perspective.
Chef Chris, I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So Mark would like to know, is it a good idea to use blue cheese or Roquefort as a sub? And if yes, what would he change out with other ingredients?
So blue cheese or Roquefort, so yes, you can use that, but it is so if you're looking at blue cheese, depending on if it's a drier blue cheese, you could pack it, and from that perspective, go through the dredging process. So it just depends on the type of blue cheese and Roquefort you're using. Typically not such a good idea, but it can be done. You'd have to use a lot of pressure.
And then would you still use ground pistachios, or would you like mix it up a little bit instead of coating it with the pistachios?
Okay, so that's a great question. You can use any nut you want. You don't have to use pistachios, okay? I like the pistachios because it brings some color into everything, all right? So I got everything in bowl except for the fat, okay? So what I need to do is just kind of give it a little stir here, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and, here's the key and point that's really important. 2 drops, 3 drops at the beginning, and go ahead and just whisk it. I use the figure 8, you can use the circle, just depends on the person, right? So once I've established those chains, so I've got the fat, the acid, and the oxygen that I'm pumping into it, then I can slowly drizzle down the side of the bowl. What I'm looking for is just an emulsification. Now, one of the things I'll address with you guys real quick is you might be doing this at home by yourself. A couple different things you can do. My mom, she actually just throws everything in the mason jar, puts like a couple drops of oil, shakes it up, and then adds a little bit more oil, shakes it up and adds a little more oil and shakes it up, and it's good. So that's one way you could do it. The other way is food processor. So that could be done. And then, of course, like we're doing here, just the old-fashioned whisk and bowl, okay? So I'm looking for, what we want to do is, I want to be able to see it on the bottom of the bowl kind of run a little bit clean as I make my whisking stroke. It's showing that it's starting to become slightly a little bit cloudy. It's starting to pick up from the bowl a little bit. And I'm good to go. It's starting to emulsify. So the key is adding those couple of drops to start that chain of molecules. So you've got the, I think we're good there. So you've got the acid, you've got the fat, and then you've got the air that's being pumped into it. Oh, I almost forgot. Season your dressing, right? Salt and pepper. And then I'm gonna just use to taste. It's picking up, it's slightly running off, slightly picking up. So that's what it'll do to your leafy green, right? I think it needs a little bit more Tabasco myself. So It's got a lot of acidity, some sweetness there. Just go ahead and adjust from that perspective. And then our dressing is done. Our pears are done. And we can move on to the dredge. Okay, so we'll set that up real quick on here. I have, just to identify the ingredients, I have my goat cheese, we talked about a little bit earlier, my flour, okay, and I have my pistachios. Again, you can use any nut you'd like to use. The other thing I'll address too is if you have a gluten allergy, you can use, I put in the recipe different types of flour, so you can do potato starch, rice, flour, any of that kind of thing will help facilitate this process, okay? So normally I would ask my class which order these go in, but for the instance of time, we have flour, egg wash, and then right into the nuts. So flour helps dry off everything in the perspective of what we're doing here. So we're going to go ahead, and again, I had you cut your discs. I like La Rochelle goat cheese here. So I think that it comes in a log, 8-ounce log, and what we did is I just sliced these into medallions. It's really important that you work with a wet knife. So a little bit of dip your knife in the water, cut, clean off the blade, dip your knife in the water, cut, clean off the blade, and so forth. That way you don't have any fracturing of the disc itself. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. By the way, I actually mixed a little bit of cornstarch in with this in the flour. Play patty cake back and forth with it, and then I'm going to put it right inside here. You take one hand, a wet and a dry hand. Okay, and this is the dredging process, okay? And flipping that over, and we're going to go through it. Go ahead and drop that in. And with my dry hand, just go ahead and lay it on top. Okay, and then, and this can get a little messy, so that's why we keep that wet and dry hand, okay? So I've gone ahead and done, that's the process. I've gone ahead and done a few ahead of time for you guys. So we can go ahead and just for the sake of time, go ahead and I'm just gonna wash my hands 1 second. So the only raw product that we will be working with, obviously, is the egg wash. So I went ahead and got that taken care of. And I'm just trying to clean as I go to make a better workspace. I got ahead and remember we went ahead and turned our oil on ahead of time. I'm going to turn that flame up now. Go ahead and get rid of all this. The egg. And then I'm going to keep my dressing out, my pears out. I'm not going to forget salt and pepper. And then I'm going to go ahead and clean this up just real quick before. So we're going to go right into this process of the pan frying. So one of the ways that I can test my oil is just to drop something into it, okay? And see I'm sorry we don't have a close-up here, but you can see little bubbles start to form on the outside of everything. I also set up ahead of time a little tray or a plate with a paper towel on it, so that'll absorb some of the fat coming off of the skillet. If you have a fish spatula at home, I don't have one today, but if you have one at home, that really helps facilitate this process of flipping things over. From that perspective, I have a little spatula here, so we'll see how that turns out. Are there any questions at this point? So I think we're pretty close to, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of these. We'll get those going. So while this is going down here, we'll go ahead and just kind of go over here and make sure everything's cleaned up. Get our plates ready. We're going to do two sides. The big thing is we don't want to leave it in there too long. So you got to make sure that your oil is about 325 or so. And the reason why is because it'll absorb into the flour and the nuts and then start melting the cheese. And so since we're dealing with kind of more of a softer cheese in this case, we have some concern for that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and shut off my flame. I'm just doing a couple of them. So you got to monitor your heat there. Pan finds it's just a little on the difficult side for techniques to master that perfect color. So it just takes a little bit of practice. So I've gone ahead and done the goat cheese here. From that perspective, I'm going to go ahead and shut this off. And Chef Mark's going to walk me my greens over. Thanks, Chef. Appreciate it. So a couple things with the greens here. Just right before I serve, I'll usually throw a damp towel. So if you're doing this at home, I throw a damp towel over the top and then I pop them in the refrigerator for about 3 to 4 minutes. And that kind of stiffens everything up a little bit. Don't forget about them though, because they'll wilt, all right? So just a couple of things there. I'm going to grab a couple of gloves here. I do like these new the new black gloves we have there, Chef. They're pretty nice there.
Nice.
Yes. Got to hold my breath to get into it. So, okay. So I have my dressing, my pears, my greens. Now, if you make your own dressings at home, you know, if you have two or three different vinegars or oils, you can easily, in a mason jar, and some spices, you can easily make, you know, thousands of different types of dressings, and you can go away from buying stuff at the grocery store. So I'm using some mixed greens here. We've got some beet tops, some red leaf, a little green leaf, some spinach. But if you can, I don't know if you can hear this, but if you can hear that, it's nice and crunchy. It'll stand up really high from that perspective, and it'll be nice. So what I want to do here is, by the way, if you make salads at home, I can teach you one thing right now. Make it 100 times better if you don't already do this. Season them before you dress them. So just a couple of runs of pepper, a little bit of salt, okay? A little to wish for, right? Sorry, Chef. So, and then from that perspective, I'm gonna go ahead and, really important not to overdress, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of give it a little mix here, just around the edges. And we'll make this for Murray because he loves salads, right, Murray? So a little bit there, and we can run a little bit on the plate too to pick that up in just a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and from this perspective, add some pears down. I got a couple of different plates just to show you a couple different things real quick from this perspective. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my hands. You can use tongs for this. I like to be gentle with the hand to work with it. Also using a proportion size, a proper portion size. Couple fingers here, couple fingers here, couple fingers here. Okay, so that's about a nice little, for brunch, a brunch serving size. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay that lettuce down right on top here. I always like to throw a little beet top right up on top there to make it look nice and neat. And then from the perspective of the goat cheese, gently adding a couple of little medallions on the side there. So there's one dish. The other dish, oh, I almost forgot, just a little drizzle of the dressing to put a little dots on it, okay? And then I'll do it the opposite direction this way and just lay a little bit base down from that perspective. And then here, I'm just gonna put about the same amount of greens along the way, okay? So to make it stand up a little high. You don't wanna overdress this salad. You wanna be able to serve it immediately right away, okay? And then I'm gonna add the pear here along the way just to kind of give it a little bit of pop from this perspective. And then I'll still these back here. And we'll go right inside to give it like a little focal point. And then again with the beet top right up on top here. So you can go from this perspective as well, okay? So depending on how you want to do it. So play with however you want to do it. I always encourage a lot of creativity when it comes to plating, but in the sake of not wasting any food, it's always good to draw it first, right? So from that perspective, I would love to take some questions if you have any.
Are there any questions for Chef Chris? Chef, we got some feedback from Mark. He said that he never knew about salt and pepper first before you dress the salad, and he never knew that you can chill it for 3 to 4 minutes to crisp it. So thank you for those tidbits.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you guys take care and be safe. And now I think we're going to take it over to Murray in just a couple of minutes to go over some wonderful beverages.
Thanks very much. A couple of things. I'd like to do a shout out to a few guys that I know in a few bars and say Happy Christmas. And also, maybe I'm a little overdressed, but Chris said not to overdress your salad. So there you go. And I've sterilized my hands by washing them in vodka. So I'm okay, all right? We're all set to travel. Now, after that wonderful meal that Chris produced, the next thing is that you stumble to the bar, don't you? And when you get to the bar, the barman always listens to your stories. I've got a few stories I can tell you. I remember I met this man, he told me about this, but I can't tell you that story. But I can tell you a little bit about making a Bloody Mary. Now, this is what we're going to do now. So, the history of a Bloody Mary, it was created by Ferdinand Puyo. He was a young bartender in Harry's Bar, that'll come up again, in Paris, in fact. And so he then put together what was already existing, the way that vodka and tomato juice went together, and then he created a drink out of that. So hopefully we can do something like that today. So what we've got to do is, we've got our measures here. So, and remember that the measure that you've got here, you've got 1.5 ounce, and this is a 1 ounce. So we're going to use just the 1 ounce here for our measure. Now we'll build our cocktail. We'll put a little bit of ice into our glass. So the first thing is we're going to decide on is what sort of vodka do you want? I've got an assortment here of all these different vodkas, and I thought I would use this one, which actually is a vodka from Sweden, and it's made with potatoes. Okay, so I think this will be quite good. We'll use a Swedish vodka, and also we can do it a couple of ways. Now, with a Bloody Mary, you can either shake it, you can stir it. There's lots of different ways. We're going to do a little mixture of each. I'll show you both. So what we start with is our vodka, and then and everyone has their own methods of how they're going to put this together. So we'll put a measure of vodka in here, 1 ounce of vodka, and then we'll put our tomato juice in here. And we'll put 2 measures of tomato juice in, 1 and 2 in there. And they always say put 1 in for luck, don't they? So we'll put that in there. Wonder why that doesn't work. And then, so we've got our main drink that we've got here. We need now maybe a little bit of Worcester sauce. Now, we have a little bit here. We put a drop, they say a drop in. So we'll put a little bit in, a couple of drops of Worcester sauce. And then a little bit of Tabasco. And I've got this teeny weeny little bottle of Tabasco here, which is just perfect for what you need to put in here. A couple of wee spots of Tabasco in there, all right? And then we put a little bit of pepper, a couple of grounds of pepper, and a little bit of salt can go in there as well. We'll put a little bit of salt in there. And why have I got that in there? And then, and now we've got really, what we've got is our drink. Now, we can either go ahead and stir this drink like this, or we can then mix it from one glass to another, like this. And then we can then strain it into our highball glass that we've got here, yes? So we've got our strainer here, put that on there. We'll then move this out here. We'll then put this in here, oops. We'll put a bit of ice in here, I think. Put a wee bit of ice in here. And then we'll pour it in, so. We should have put that 1 in for luck. So, and now we can decorate this. We've got a little bit of celery that we've got. We can put our celery in here. We've got some olives, and we've also got some lemon that we can put on here as well. We can put that at the side there. Now, you start to build your cocktail up. You can start to, some people put carrots in there. Some people put prawns in there, and some people do add other ingredients that we've got into the drink itself, yes? So we've got our Bloody Mary that we've got there as our first drink, all right? So we'll start with that, and I suppose I better taste it. That would be a good idea, wouldn't I? So, I can tell you what it tastes like. Tastes like an early morning breakfast sitting on a beach with a beautiful woman beside me as the sun is coming up. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll turn it over now to Chef Mark, and Chef Mark's going to make a nice dish for you now, and he will continue our exploits until I meet you again after Chef Mark. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Murray, for that beautiful cocktail. I can't wait to have mine. So the way that we structured our meal today was obviously a brunch. So we really wanted to highlight items that would be great for you to have a party. We're not focused on breakfast. We're not focused on lunch. We're right in the middle, a little bit of both. So this is one of my favorite meals. The dish that I'm going to prepare is a little bit more on the breakfast side. And the dish that Chris Lindsay prepared was a little bit more on the lunch side, a little bit more savory. So today what I'm going to prepare with you is a brioche French toast. I have this lovely bread known as brioche. If you don't have or can't find brioche, similar breads that I would use would be challah or maybe a French bread. But as you can see, there's a very nice tight structure. The thing that I love about brioche is that it's very rich. It's full of butter. So when you make this dough, you're actually throwing in big chunks of butter into the dough as it whips together, and that's what really gives it its nice lift is the moisture in that butter. So when it bakes, that's what gives it that nice rise. You don't have any really big holes though, so that's brioche there. If you're curious, this one that I get is from Bon Breads. They're a local baker, and they are amazing. One of the first things that we need to do to prepare for our recipe is turn on a griddle. So today I have a flat top, which is kind of similar to what your griddle at home might be. So I've got that on. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our French toast batter. So I have a bowl here. I have my trusty whisk. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a little bit of heavy cream. I believe it's about 1.5 cups. Just about there. The reason that I personally choose heavy cream is because it's very rich. There's a lot of milk fat. If you want to make this a little bit lighter, I would go with whole milk. So there we have our heavy cream. Next, we are going to put in our whole eggs, and we're going to do that just like this. So I have 4 of those. All right, we'll get those out of the way. So now that we have our eggs and our heavy cream in there together, now we got to spice it up a little bit. So here I have a little bit of vanilla extract. We're going to pour just a little splash of that in there. And then I have some ground cinnamon. So I'm going to do a little bit of ground cinnamon, just like that. And then next I have a little bit of nutmeg. Now, if you can't find ground nutmeg, the whole nutmeg works really well, and it's really, really aromatic. This is my favorite way to use it. I have a microplane, which is a very, very fine grater. And what we're gonna do is just carefully grate some of this right over the top. The other thing that you can do is when you're finished with the dish, you could grate just a little bit of this fresh nutmeg over the top, and it'll make it really, really aromatic and smell great. So we'll save that for the end for when we garnish. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the trusty whisk, and we're going to whisk all of this together. In this recipe, I did not choose to put any type of sugar or sweetener in this batter because we're going to put this with fresh berries. We're going to do it with warm maple syrup. So I think that there's going to be enough sweetness there. And then we're going to finish it with a little powdered sugar. So I believe that there's enough sugar in the dish or sweetness that we don't need to add any. All right. So there is our batter. We've got that ready to go. What I'm looking for in this case is just something that's nice and smooth. I don't want any like really big clumps of the egg so that when I dip the batter in the brioche into the batter, it's not going to clump. So now what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the griddle. And in this case, I like to put on some gloves because this can be rather messy. So we're going to bring our toast and our batter over here to the griddle. All right. So I have my griddle on. I have it set to about 350 degrees. I think that's a really nice temperature for this application. Also right here, I have my maple syrup. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to put that off in the corner of the griddle or on the stove on a very low heat. I want to do this right as we're starting to cook the French toast, because I don't want it to get too hot. Believe it or not, maple syrup that's too hot is not really good. We just want it warmed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my French toast, I'm going to flip it 3 times, and then I'm going to let the excess shake off. While I'm letting that drip off, I have a little bit of neutral oil. So this is a little bit of a canola oil. We're going to give it a little bit on there and just kind of wipe that around. Nice even coating. And then I'm going to place the brioche there. So again, flip it about 3 times. The slices that I've prepared today are about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. If you get any thicker than that, I believe that you need to get the French toast golden brown here on the griddle and then finish it in the oven. So this is about as thick as I would go. Otherwise, it can be rather uncooked in the center and a little bit gummy, and you don't want that. You want this to be nice, cooked evenly all the way through. And our last piece. Each person that I would serve this to, I would give them 1 whole piece. In the case of today, we have Chef Steph that's working the camera. Murray, Chris, myself, and Candace is out of luck. All right. Yeah, maybe we'll give her the booze. All right, so right now what we have is our French toast going, the syrup's nice and warm, and thank you, sir. And we're gonna let this sit for about 1.5 to 2 minutes on each side, and then we're gonna flip it. But in the meantime, we're gonna go back to the cutting board and we're gonna prepare the garnishes. All right. So we are back where we will be doing our plating. I've selected a nice plate. In this case, I wanted a plate that was white or off-white because when we pour that maple syrup on there, I want that to show on the plate. Also with a little bit of the powdered sugar and the berries, I think it'll go really nicely. So I have my bowl. I've got my trusty spoon. We've got some blueberries. I washed these yesterday, so they are ready to go. They're nice and dry. Same with a little bit of raspberries. Of each of these, I selected about 2 ounces, depending on how much you want per person. Then what I've done is I washed the strawberries, I took off the top, and then I quartered them, so I have those nice strawberries. And there we are. And we're just gonna lightly mix those together, just like that. And we're gonna set those there, ready to go. Also, again, we have our nutmeg and we have our microplane ready to go for just a little bit of garnish. And then what we have here is I have just a little strainer, and this is going to allow us to put our powdered sugar in there. And then at the end, when we go to garnish, it'll be kind of like snow falling. So we have that ready to go. So we're gonna leave that here as well. And then lastly, I have a couple of whole strawberries and a little sprig of mint. I love using just a little bit of fresh mint. And then I'll show you how we're gonna garnish that at the end. And then I also have a couple of strawberries. I wanna show you how we might cut those for a garnish. So there's a couple different ways. You can cut this strawberry down the center, and then you can actually open it up like that. Or we could also take the top of that strawberry off and then turn it this way and make nice thin slices as such, and then actually fan that strawberry out like that. So we're gonna put that one right there. So we have a couple of different little garnitures there, kind of fun to play around with, kind of dress the plate up, make that look great. I'm gonna run back over to the griddle. I'm gonna flip those, and then I'll be right back. Let me flip these over. All right, so those are the French toast looks beautiful. It's nice and golden brown on that side. We're gonna wait about another 1.5 to 2 minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna talk to you just a little bit about what in the restaurant we like to call, for lack of a better term, mapo sweepo. Because this is a towel that's lightly damp. We roll it up, but it's good for mopping and sweeping up the edge of the plate. So I like to have this on hand, so that when we finish this, if we make a little bit of a mess around that beautiful border, we can sweep it up nice and easy. Also, I have a little bit of butter. This is whole butter. It is unsweetened. It's sweetened, not salted. So because this is a sweeter dish, I wanted to use unsalted butter. You could put a little bit of salt because salt and sweet works well as well. So we've got our butter there. We've got a couple garnishes. We have our nutmeg, our berries, our powdered sugar, and then just a little bit of mint. So now what I'm going to do is I will go over and I will get the French toast, which should be just about ready. I'll bring that back and we'll plate it up.
Chef Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Mark would like to know, at 350 degrees on the griddle, how much time per side for the bread?
Time per side for the bread.
About 2 minutes. Yeah. About 2 minutes is usually just about perfect. So now let me show you what we have is I can feel that it's nice, kind of firm. And we also want this nice, beautiful golden brown color. I'm gonna leave these 3 right here. This one's a little not as big, so this one's gonna be just perfect. So I'm gonna grab my warm syrup and my toast, and we're gonna head over here to the plate. All right, so for this one, I am gonna put on some gloves because what we are doing is we're actually putting this food right on the plate. In the restaurant industry, what we call this is ready-to-eat food, RTE. I think Chef Chris mentioned that. In the restaurant industry, we are not allowed to touch anything that is ready to eat. So something that someone's ready to consume, you have to have gloves or a spoon or tongs or something like that. So keeping with that, I'm going to cut my toast, and that's on a slight bias. And we're going to put that toast right there in the center. I'm gonna take one of those little pats of butter for each half. All right. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some of those beautiful berries, put a few right on top, just like that. Maybe a couple around the sides. There we go. Again, we have that beautiful fresh nutmeg, so I'm gonna give it just a little dusting, just like that. You can really smell that. I have the beautiful mint sprig. This is a bartender's trick. What I'm actually gonna do is put it in one hand and just slap it. Now what happens is all those essential oils come out, and we have that beautiful essence of the mint around the plate. We're gonna take our syrup. Let's go syrup first. And we're gonna give that a little syrup. You can see that syrup's nice and warm. That's beautiful, just like that. And last but not least, we have our powdered sugar. So, just like that. And there we have the brioche French toast with berries and warm maple syrup. We're going to take just a moment. If there's any questions, I can handle those questions. And from here, we're going to go back to Dr. Mackenzie. He has yet another cocktail for us.
So that brioche French toast looks amazing, and I just want to take a moment. I know Chef Mark just touched on it briefly, but I just want to take a moment and thank Chef Stephanie. For those of you that have been with us from the beginning, most of the events that we've done here in Hospitality Hall, Chef Stephanie has been our camerawoman, and she has been amazing, and we are thankful for her. She actually has a film background, so we lucked out. So hopefully when we come back on and we're live again with Dr. Mackenzie, Chef Stephanie can pop her head around behind the camera and give us all a little wave, because she has definitely been the one making it possible to do all of the filming from the kitchen for these events that we've done in Hospitality Hall.
Okay, welcome back. The last of the drink. And yes, we've had the breakfast, we've watched the sunrise, now the sun is setting on this relationship that I've had with this beautiful woman, and therefore we need to celebrate. Well, maybe not, but we're going to make a Bellini and also a Mimosa. So let's have a look at those two very simple cocktails that we can make. Now remember that, and I think Chris, Chef Chris, was actually in Harry's bar in Venice where Bellini was invented. You know, he actually he took a picture of himself. I remember it. You know, so and that was interesting. So we've got that, and then also the Ritz Hotel in Paris. The Mimosa was really concocted there. You know, these chefs, they're always crashing and banging around, you know, so you can hear them in the background. So, right, so here we got now. All we have to do is very, very simple, is that with Bellini, you need a peach juice. Now, if you haven't got any peach, I mean, you can use other, but traditionally, you know, they use a peach juice. I've got classic peach Bellini. Oh, there it is. So it's written on here with peach puree and orange juice added in. So you could use orange juice, or even if you went into the supermarket and got a peach cordial or something, you know, you should be all right. So unsweetened, and then you get 2 measures. So here's my 2 measures. 1. And then 2, and I'll make 2 of these, yes, because I know that we're going to celebrate after this. I'd rather be making a martini, shaken not stirred, or something like that. That seems to be a better idea, don't you think? So I've got my 2 glasses here now. To open your bottle of sparkling wine, now it doesn't have to be a champagne, it can be any sparkling wine. Some nice Prosecco Italian sparkling wine is beautiful, or if you want to go and get some champagne, or you can then get other Cremant from other parts of France, or even a sparkling wine from California, doesn't matter. But to open the sparkling wine, do it with some flair, you know, don't just open it out in the kitchen. Bring the bottle in. Bring the bottle into where you are going to do your opening, and then make sure you point it away from everybody. Best is to do it outside, obviously, to do it outside to make sure that no one's going to be hurt, yes. Take off the cage. I've taken off everything else. Take the cage off. Now, keep your thumb on the cork. And then, I happen to have a saber nearby that we can use to open the bottle. Now, you should do this at Christmas time, yeah? So, then hold the bottle so it's pointing away from you, and take the saber, or you could use an ordinary kitchen knife. I've seen it used with even a glass to take it off, yeah? So, and everyone's thinking, what's he going to do? So the idea is that you run the saber up and knock the cork off the end. And then there's a wee bit of show, yes? So the idea is keep it away and then go, whoa. Easy as that, yes? Look at that nice clean cut off that. Beautiful, yeah? And then top it up, yes? Top up our Bellini. And then we can have on here a little bit of, I can see everyone running out and getting a bottle of sparkling wine and opening the bottle. So you can imagine at the end of my relationship, this is what I did to celebrate. Ching! Open it all up, yes? So, and now I put on here, you can put a little bit of raspberry on the top, be nice. Or you've got other types of garnishes that you want to put on there as well, yes? So now, that's our Bellini, yes? Now that's very easy to do. So the next thing is that we'll do our mimosa, yes? So same thing. We take our glasses again, 2 sparkling wine glasses that we've got here. And then we get our sparkling wine, which we've opened. I wonder where the cork went to. Anyway, and then we've got orange juice that we will also put with this rather than peach, yes? So with this, again, we just put 1 measure of the orange juice in this, yeah? So just 1 measure will go in. Okay, and then your sparkling wine to top that up. You can have this Christmas morning. I mean, most people do it. I'm sure they do, yes? Have a little bit Christmas morning. All right, top this up. And as I said, you can use any sparkling wine. You can open it like that. But there is a secret to opening the sparkling wine. So remember, very important, all your bottles have got a seam that run down the center. All right, they run down the center. So you'll see this seam. And then when you're opening it, make sure that you run the knife along the seam of the bottle. And 1 long stroke, just boom. Don't, about 45 degrees, and off you go, yes? But remember to run up that seam because that's the weakest part of the bottle. I guarantee it'll open for you. You'll be surprised, yes? And you'll have a nice clean cut at the end. And all that shards of glass that are there, if they are there, are all pushed away with the pressure. So we've got our cocktail, and we've also here, we can put a little bit of mint into this one, would be nice. And hang on just a minute. Looks a bit sad now. We'll put a little bit of mint there, but don't worry, there's more. We can put a strawberry on this. You know, I can do just as good as those damn chefs, you know. I can put something on here. There you go. I'll put my strawberry on here. Get in here. There we go. Look at that. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. So there's my mimosa that I have for my drink. And so now I've got my breakfast, which is my Bloody Mary. And then I've got my Bellini and my mimosa for my evening, and plus these wonderful meals that both Chef Chris and also Chef Mark made. So if I invite them to come around, I'll just, and then I can give them a drink. Here we go. You can choose.
Right.
All right. and I'll have this one here. So, and we all would like to thank you and wish you a wonderful Christmas, New Year. Be kind to each other and look after yourselves. Mark?
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Pleasure.
Well, thank you, chefs. All of you guys are fantastic. So thank you, Chef Mark Sandoval, Chef Chris Lindsay, and Dr. Murray Mackenzie, and Chef Stephanie behind the camera. Are you behind there, Chef? Okay, we want to see you too, because you're a part of the team here. Hello. So thank you all for being a part of this. So we want to wish you guys all a happy holidays, which we're right in the middle of right now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this meal and you've enjoyed these sessions that we have had throughout the year. We're going to have more of these in the spring, so with everybody. So thank you for joining us with this. And also remember that if you have cooked with us, if you've cooked at any of these sessions or made some drinks, share those with us on social media, because we would love to see what you guys have created there, because I noticed in the comments just a little bit ago, somebody had made some of the fudge that we had on our last Cook Like a Rebel. So definitely share those pictures with us on social media, either on the college's page or also on the alumni page. So once again, I'm your president of the Hospitality Alumni Chapter, and thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you later. And also, before we go, I also want to be a big thank you to Candace. Candace is in the other room next to our kitchen right now, and Candace has really helped to put all of these sessions together, was very instrumental in today's brunch. So thank you so much, Candace, for everything that you have done to put all of these Cook Like a Rebels and Salud Prost Cheers together this year. We couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much for everything that you have done, and we'll see you guys next year.